In this video, we're going to continue on about creating group folders for our Linux users. What this means is we can have inside of Linux, our users will be members of groups such as HR, accounting, sales, and so on. And then each of those groups would have a group folder that only that group have access to. Now, in the prior video, we went ahead and we created our users. We assigned passwords, created groups, added those users to those groups, and verified that we were able to log in as them and confirm their memberships. In this video, we're going to do the second half. We're going to go ahead and create the directories for those users. We're going to change the group and other permissions on those directories to make them operable for that group to be able to access them, and then also to make it not world readable so that the accounting department can't necessarily see what the HR department is doing, that they're completely separate and independently operate. So in the background here, I have my Fedora 30 machine up and running. For the purposes of this recording, however, I'm actually running PuTTY. PuTTY is just a terminal emulator, allows me to remotely access that same virtual machine we were just looking at, and works a little bit better due to the size and the flexibility it allows us. So we already have our users. We already have our groups. And users are members of those groups. So we will now continue on and create our directories. Now, in the Linux hierarchy standard, the LHS, there are tons of descriptions about where to put things. Tons of places to be able to put things, and there is always somebody who has a better idea. It's my understanding that the best place to put group folders or group type folders is in the user directory. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by just simply creating a heroes and a villains folder in this directory using mkdir. Now, if I start off mkdir/user/heroes, we get an error message saying the permission is denied. The permissions on the user folder require root or administrative permissions in order to save anything, so I have to run that as sudo. It's been a couple of minutes since I've done anything as sudo, so it actually prompts me for my password. The idea being that if I walk away from my computer, somebody else can't just walk up and start changing things on it without me. So I went ahead, I created the folder, up arrow one more time, and let's do the villains. And then if I do an ls/user, now we will see there's two new folders in here. There's the villains and the heroes. Awesome. So I went ahead, I created the folders using mkdir, and now I need to change the group of the directory. I guess the most important question is why? What does that mean? And I will show you right now. If while doing an ls for the user, I actually add the switch ls-l for a long listing. That will actually give me all of the permissions for these files. So for instance, here we have the heroes folder. There are lots of permissions over here, and then we'll see that the user that owns the heroes directory is root, and the security group that owns the heroes directory is root. Remember, when a user is created, a group is created with the same name. So when root created the folder, root owns it from both the user as well as the group standpoint. Now, the user doesn't necessarily matter all that much. What I want is I want the group here to change to heroes so that the heroes users can access that directory. So for that, we're going to use the change group command. And if we just check really quick, change group dash help dash dash help, we can see there's let's see, change group, options, optional options. Which group do we want it to be, and then which file or directory should it be? So basically, it should just be change group, heroes, and then /user/heroes. All right, so let's go ahead and try that. Every time we're doing anything with permissions, we need to run a sudo. So sudo change group. We want the heroes users to have access to the /user/heroes folder. Now, if we do an ls-l on the user directory, and we look at the heroes folder here, we can see, well, the user is still root, and that's perfectly fine. However, the group is heroes. Awesome. Let's do the same thing for villains. Change group villains /user/villains. And there we go. Now the next step we need to do, now that we have gone ahead and changed the group of the directory, is we need to change the group permissions. Now what that means is on the left-hand side here, heroes, there we go, we see these guys. And what that means is that these guys are 3 different sets of permissions. So if we separate these out, what we have here is we have user permissions, and then we have group permissions, and then we have other permissions. The R stands for read, the W stands for write, and then X stands for execute. So here we can see that the user has read, write, and execute permissions. The group only has read and execute permissions. So because the group only has read or execute permissions, and the group is the heroes group, we want the heroes group to be able to write to this directory. So we are going to run the command chmod change mode, and the mode we want to change is for the group. We want to add write permissions. And so that's what we're going to do. Let me, let's move that. So we want to run chmod g+w for that directory. So sudo chmod g+w /user/heroes. And now when we run the ls-l and we look at our heroes permissions, we can now see the heroes group as read, write, and execute. So now anybody in the heroes group should be able to go ahead and into that folder and create files. In fact, let's go ahead and try that. Let's use su- in order to change groups, and let's log into Peter. Peter's password. We're now logged in as Peter Parker. Who am I? Peter Parker. I should be able to edit a file in the user heroes group. So vi/user/heroes/ let's see, web.txt. That sounds appropriate for Peter. Go into insert mode and hello there. I am Spider-Man. I guess that would be capitalized. Spider-Man. In order to save this, we hit escape to get out of insert mode, :WQ for write and quit. That went ahead and saved it. And now if we do ls-l in order to view the permissions, we want to view not just the user directory, but specifically the heroes directory. And here we can see Peter Parker created a file called web.txt in the user heroes. So Peter now has write permission to that directory. Awesome, we are 25% there. Go ahead and exit out of that. So we went ahead and we changed the group permissions. Anybody in that group, such as Peter, has write permissions, and anybody who's not in that group, such as Auto, Vi, it's user / heroes oct.txt. If he tries to write in here, it says can't open the file for writing. So Peter has write permissions because he's a member of the heroes directory. Otto is heroes directory. Heroes group. Otto is not a member of the heroes group. Therefore, Otto cannot write the file. So let's go ahead and exit out and exit to get out of Otto's account. So next thing we need to do is we need to change the default group for the directory. And this is what's called the sticky bit. Now, why do we need to do this? What does this mean and why do we need to do it? Well, let's look back at what Peter's file is. When Peter created web.txt, it set him as the owner and also set him as the group. So even though everybody in the heroes directory should be able to read and write to these files, they should be able to share the files back and forth. Right now, Peter is both the owner and the group for this file. And so he has read write as the owner, he has read write as the group, and everybody else only has read permission. So even though Wade is a member of the heroes group, Wade cannot edit this file. He can read it, but the group now is Peter, and therefore Wade can't read it. What we need to do is we need some way for everything that goes into this directory to have a default group of heroes. And that's exactly what we're doing there. That is the sticky bit. By changing the sticky bit or setting the sticky bit for the group, basically what that says is everybody in the group, or I'm sorry, everybody in that folder gets the same group. Every file in that folder gets the same group as the folder. So if we simply run chmod g+s against the /user/heroes folder, then every file that's created in that folder should have the heroes as the owner, or I'm sorry, as the group. So let's try that. Sudo chmod g for group plus s for sticky /user/heroes. Asks me for my password because it's been a while since I've used sudo. Let's go ahead and briefly look at the permissions, ls-l for the user directory. We'll see the heroes directory. The permissions have changed a little bit. Instead of an X for read, write, execute, it now has a lowercase s. The S means sticky. The lowercase s means executable and sticky. If it's an uppercase s, it means not executable and sticky. And so now if I log in as Wade, super secret password, and we try to edit a file, user heroes, not a hero. I am not a hero. And now we look at the permissions of those files. Then we can see the file that Wade just created, not a hero.txt. He is still the owner, which is perfectly fine. He created the file. He can be the owner. However, the group is now heroes. Because the group is heroes, I should be able to log out and log in as Peter. And edit that file. User heroes, not a hero. And add in this UR. And I was able to save it. I was able to save it without any concerns, no permissions issues, nothing. In fact, if I cat it, then I can see exactly what was there. It actually saved, and the file contents are secure. All right, so the sticky bit, log out here, log B Justin again. So the sticky bit allows everything in that directory to have the same group permissions as the group itself. Okay, the last thing we need is to make the directory not world readable. What I mean by that, if we look at the directory, at the user directory, we can see here is heroes and they have permissions. There. If we break that out here with the user group and other, we can see, well, the user, who is root, has read, write, execute. The group, who is host, has read, write, execute, sticky. But other, or everybody else in the entire world, has both read and execute, which means if I log in as Otto or Victor, I can view what's in there. I can view those files. Not only can I view them, I can actually read them. And well, I don't want my villains to be able to read my hero file. I want my heroes to read the heroes files and the villains to read the villains files, and none in between. So what I need to do is, when we look at these permissions, I need to remove the read and execute permissions from the other group. And that's what these are right here. So up here we used chmod to add write permissions. Here we use chmod to make it sticky. And here we can use chmod to remove both read and execute permissions from everybody else, from everybody who is not either the owner or the group. So let's check that out. Sudo chmod O for other, minus read, and then what do I want to apply that to? I want it to be the user heroes. And then same thing for minus and execute. And now if I do a directory listing, in the user folder, I see heroes. Other has absolutely no permissions whatsoever on here. And then if I log in as Victor again, and I try to see what's in the user heroes directory, permission denied. And that's what I wanted. If this was a business environment, the marketing department doesn't want HR to see their systems. HR doesn't want sales to see their files. Sales doesn't want accounting to see their files. Each group wants to have their own private little playhouse, and that's essentially what we did. Now, everything I did there was all based towards the heroes folder, so I need to reproduce most, if not all of that for villains, which is at this point a piece of cake because I know exactly what to type. However, once I repeat that, then the villains have their own security group and their own directory, just like the heroes have their own security group and their own directory. So there we go. That was creating folders, group folders for Linux users. In the prior video, we created users and groups. And then in this folder video, we created our directories. We then set a bunch of permissions on those directories in order to allow the groups to be able to access them properly. And then lastly, we removed world readable permissions and we logged in as different users in order to confirm that the permissions were applying the way we expected them to.